Hello and welcome to the show. Hopefully I've got a treat for everybody joining us today. Today we have Madwoman Muses. Say hello.
Hey.
And we have Miss Misa. Somewhere. She's there.
Mr. Q.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. She probably muted it out just in case because the audio got a little loud because that happens sometimes depending on your settings.
My mic did that thing again where it goes out. Sorry. Hello, everybody.
Hello. She is joining us. I wasn't lying. We're trying to make this more fun and get more voices on. I keep reaching out to grab more anybody. Guests, chat people, other creators. I invite them all. So any suggestions or shout outs I appreciate. I'm handing out the wrenches as quick as I can get them to my subscribers and viewers until I hit that point where I feel I've handed out enough for a while. Alright, without further ado, let's roll this game board if I can remember what I'm doing. Sometimes you have those moments. There we go.
Welcome to the Great Debate.
So, Miss Misa has been hanging out for a while. I think I should go ahead and let her pick today's first topic.
Ooh, right. I'm going to save sex for later. Oh, that's what's going to get juicy. Let's go with...
Oh, and I did one of those mistakes. You go ahead and pick one while I fix the mistake I did, because nobody can see the screen. And there it is.
my mic keeps cutting. I'm going to have to use my crappy mic. I picked television.
Television it is.
Yeah.
In the 1980s and 90s, there were many down-to-earth, realistic families on TV. Does it seem there are fewer low-income families in shows now?
I would say so. I mean, a lot of kind of popular American shows that revolve around the family, I think they want to portray them as completely idealistic and have that kind of 1950s picket fence family, which you can't really have if you don't have a steady income. I guess because it's an escape from reality, everything has to look really nice and prestige and everything. So I would say so.
Yeah, they're doing unrealistic portrayals of families nowadays. I agree. That, or they're so over the top, it's just hard to believe that families like that even exist.
But that's exactly what I see. I don't watch much of it, but my wife still does watch a lot of those uppity home TV shows or portrayal shows. And what I do notice is instead of they might show poor people as the main character, but they're being held up by other characters and don't quite live in a poor lifestyle. It's not like when we were watching. My mind immediately went to Roseanne when I was writing this question, and I built it around watching Roseanne in the 90s, and that actually being closer to the portrayal of the lifestyle that I lived in than most other shows you see.
Yeah.
I've also noticed there are a lot more divorced parents in TV shows now. Like I watch Lucifer, the main girl in that. She's a divorced now single mother. The Strain, which I watch as well. The main character is a guy who's divorced, but he still lives in an upper class area. Bit of a weird pattern as well.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of separated parents and one-parent families, especially portrayed on most of these shows.
Yeah, it seems like they seem to be drifting more away from, what a traditional family is, even though the traditional family has evolved from a one-income household to needing two incomes in order to run the household properly. As in meeting all the bills and stuff like that.
Yeah, they just make it seem like all the bills, they're mysteriously met, and there's somewhere in there's a little work behind where the check came from, but the check is always enough to cover the bills and the outings and the extras and the fridge always seeming to be full, and that's not how life really works.
No, that's not how it is. It's, as a commercial would say, that's not how any of this works.
Right.
I mean, we would all love to live with an income to where we could do whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted, without having to worry about, the lights being cut off or, us losing a car because we missed a payment. But in reality, if you're not making the money, then a lot of things have to be sacrificed in order to just make the basic ends meet.
Yeah. I often find myself running into those same problems. It's like, okay, here's my budget. My budget's set. This comes up. Okay, my budget's no longer set. How do I fix the budget? Things don't go according to plan. You try to plan for things going wrong, but sometimes more goes wrong. You don't always live the happy weeks like you see on these modern TV shows where one of them, the maid, lives with a rich computer programmer. And one of them makes donuts and lives above the donut shop the restaurant because she works there. Something. I don't follow the shows. Somebody in the chat may even know what I'm talking about. But they say they're poor, but they don't at all look poor.
Yeah. They don't look poor at all. I mean, it's... in order to portray a family that is really struggling, the clothes can't look new. Yeah. Because realistically, if you're not making enough money, if you're making barely enough money to feed your own family, obviously your clothes aren't going to be the newest clothes out there. You're not going to look the cleanest in terms of, keeping up with the latest fashions.
Right. And that's where I lose interest in the show, is there's no relatability, then why do I want to watch it? And I'd actually like to see more shows like Roseanne was, where there's blankets thrown over the back of the couch. Several of them, because the kids were just sitting there stretching them all out. The pillows are thrown on the floor, and, you walk into two of them throwing stuff at each other in the kitchen. That's how life actually happens.
Yeah.
Oh, right. And I want to say thank you and welcome to everybody in the chat joining us. Just so you know, you're all going to get wrenches. Also, you're all going to accumulate these things called bones. And somewhere in there, my bot will tell you what to do with them. Also, there's some regulars in here that have a ball with them. So I'm sure they'll help you out. Mad Woman, it is your turn to pick from this board. This is a beautiful
board. My turn to pick. Let us see here. How about virtual reality? Sounds interesting.
Is it possible for virtual reality to be so real you can't tell the difference? Or more importantly, real enough to where the mind can't tell the difference?
Ooh.
Maybe if the technology, because I've played on the virtual reality stuff as Satsu is when I did it, and it did feel like if you keep the helmet on for long enough, it does start to feel like that is reality after a while. So I think they've already kind of mastered that, because psychologically you start thinking that that's real life. And yeah, Satsu, I lost my shit. I was playing a zombie game and I was shitting myself. It was terrible. But I think because of the fact that you can turn around and see what's going on in like the game or whatever you're doing in the virtual reality thing, like, because you're moving around and everything moves with you, it does start to feel like it is real. That makes sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's I can actually see it getting to, because I don't have the VR stuff right now. We are planning on getting, some VR setups and stuff for when we move to a better place than we're in. And, watching movies this kind of reminded me of the Demolition Man with that one scene where he's like, oh God, and what? I haven't even touched you yet. It's like, It's like if it gets to that point, it can be scary because where do you draw the line at that point between, you know, how much realism can one person stand in a video game as opposed to, you know, you knowing it fantasy every step of the way.
We've had a few mild discussions as the virtual reality questions have run their course about tactile and sensory responses being a few of the limits right now in a virtual reality. To actually live there and feel like you're in a reality, it would require at least enough of your senses for your mind to believe that you're there, I think. So it wouldn't possibly require all of your senses to work properly aligned with the virtual world, but maybe enough of them to convince your mind that the other one's not necessary or not working.
Right.
So if you could incorporate some sort of tactile responses, gloves or, you know, something like that, and the realism of the world that you were walking through were real enough, do you think that you could be fooled into believing you're in reality when you're in a virtual reality?
To a point, yes, but if I was able to, you know, get to the point where I could play virtual reality games, chances are my choices of those particular games would, even though I would have the responses that most people would get confused with reality and fantasy, my geek would come out because I would like to see a virtual reality Star Wars game where I could be a Jedi.
I am all with you there. Jedi forces would be cool. It'd be nice to be the Q or something like that. It would be nice to partake in these wild tangent adventures.
Yeah.
Yes, Dada, maybe we are. Maybe we are in a VR world now. Okay, I just realized somebody showed up and didn't have a wrench. There you go. Oh, okay, so virtual reality, I think, is starting to run its course in this game. It's really hard, still being a new technology. Trying to encompass everything that's coming in. We've looked at the virtual reality. I forget what the other one's called. Sometimes my mind blanks out. Somebody in my chat might help me. I know I've covered it a few times. The integrated reality. There's another name for it. There's interesting things coming along technologically, and being curious about what's next or what's being worked on is awesome. So trying to figure out what's still possible and where we are. That would augmented reality, that is the exact thing we were talking about. See, augmented. I would actually like to play with an augmented reality system like what Microsoft was working on, where I can move windows around me in the room and get up and move around and be able to do stuff across the walls. That would be ideal for me. That would make me think I was in something more real when it was phasing in the technology. I'm wondering if Misa's mic is out.
No,
okay.
I'm still here.
Okay. For a moment there, I thought you were changing mics again. Feel free to pipe in whenever you want. That's fine. But we are back on you for your turn here.
Okay, let's go for controversy.
Controversy. Would have a controversy. While it can be understood sex and sexuality are different, how can we not agree sex organs are also different, and the three are separate in and of themselves? Let me reread that because I think I read it wrong. While it can be understood sex and sexuality are different, how can we not agree sex organs are also different and the three are separate in and of themselves? So your sex, your sexuality, and your sex organs are three different things and therefore all different in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This gets into a deep argument. I think I may have worded it wrong.
Weird.
Yeah, weird. Like I said, it's really hard to write these questions out, to try and ask what's coming across. So we understand that some out there are trying to separate sex and gender. So it can be okay. We can agree. We can let that go. We can let sex and sexuality be two different things. But shouldn't then the sex organs, the gender of somebody, also be something different? So your sex, and your gender, your sex, your sexuality, and your gender, we have to go, are now three separate things so that we can still identify somebody in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I mean, from my view on the whole like, you know, trying to, can't explain it. You're referring to like the trans issue, aren't you? Like the non-binary stuff, right?
I'm referring to in a really hard way. I'm trying to refer to the confusion they're offering with these new articles coming out saying that the breastfeeding one being a prime one, and the not only women can be pregnant argument that was out in January, and other such arguments. I was trying to word this in a way that would allow us to discuss the fact that trans people may say they're something. They may say they're female but still be male sex organs, or say they're male but still have female sex organs. And we have to, if they want to dilute it, we have to make sure we come up with somewhere that has a firm stance of how to identify differences between people.
Well, I think we're never going to be able to do that because society's like now we're basing everything that we do upon how people feel. And a lot of people who are coming out as trans or non-binary, that are so emotive that they don't want people to identify them as the sex that they were born as in any capacity, even if they've still got their original sex organs. So I don't think in terms of like society we're going to be able to do that. I think medically you kind of have to, like if they go to see the doctor or they go to the hospital or something. But I don't think that, like, if I walked up to a trans person and they were like a male to female, and I was trying to speak to them in a completely objective scientific manner about their genitals or whatever, that, you know, they just dismiss it completely and, you know, get really emotional about it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Understood. And at the same time, don't get me wrong, primal thought, sorry, maybe it's partially because I'm a man, mostly because I'm a human. Primal thought when I see a person is, who are they? What do they have to, you know, where do they fit into my criteria, so to speak? A lot of people do it consciously. Some people do it subconsciously. You look at people and you rate where they are on your scale based on people you've met or encounters you've had, or what you're into. And whether they're male or female, or you're male or female, doesn't matter. You look at somebody and you identify factors about them that help you identify where they fit into the social order in your mind, so to speak. I hate to say it like that, but that's how you kind of divide people up. So on an everyday, regular basis, you look at somebody and you try to determine whether they match. So you're looking partially at, you know, who they are, what do they look like, but you're also thinking to yourself, whether you realize it or not, male or female, what do they have?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think there needs to be a socially acceptable way that if people who want to change their sex or their gender or however they want to list it, if they want to do that, then there needs to be an acceptable way for people who go, okay, but I still want to know offhand before I even think about wanting to hit on you, just to be sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, because they have muddied the waters so much. It's like I think it was 2 months ago, I got into a Twitter conversation with one of the people that are conflagrating the gender and the whole sex thing, and I told them that I was a tomboy, and they spent the next rest of the frickin' Twitter trying to convince me that I wasn't a tomboy, that I was a demi-boy.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here reading the tweets going, no.
I think you would know what you are.
Yeah, exactly. But for them to sit there and go, well, no, because a tomboy isn't a thing. I said, a tomboy's been a thing since, I don't know. Most people
50s,
have forgotten since
40s.
It wasn't a thing,
I want to say long ago, my grandma used to tell me how when she was a kid, she was called a tomboy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, it's just the way you want to express yourself, they have turned into a gender.
Right. Sorry,
and that in itself is a problem, because there's infinite ways to express yourself as a person, to make yourself an individual. And here they are trying to put this individualism in boxes and say, okay, that's a gender now. No.
Why does it matter? This is the thing I hate about the whole identity politics thing. Why do you have to identify as a demigirl or a trans person or a cis? It doesn't matter.
No, honestly, none of that. On first appearances, first encounters, and impressions, none of that's going to matter at all. Thank you to Lo-Fi for subscribing. None of that's really going to matter at all. Once you get past all that, you're really after wondering, humans are a social grouping kind of animal. We want to live in packs, but we want to live in packs with people we feel similar with. It's just natural instinct. The way we do that is we find people that either hold the same values or okay with the same things, or maybe we don't associate with people near us. Maybe we'll travel to somebody who we do agree with and we'll hang out with them. We want to be socially accepted.
Yeah.
So, understanding that, we also want to be... People don't want to be misled. And you see a lot of that out there on these shows where people who are trans are actively misleading people just to see if they can. And then when they find out it's so harsh, why aren't they accepting of this? It's not that they're not accepting of it. It's that you didn't explain to them that your genitals didn't match what you were portraying.
Yeah.
So I think the controversy is here is how do I write a question to open a conversation, to talk about the fact that, if I look at someone who looks hot and then have to look again and go, is that a woman?
Right?
I mean, it doesn't look too bad, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I need another input. Hey, is that a woman? Is that...
Yeah.
When you get that feeling, you're like, okay, you know what? I realize that this issue is getting bigger and bigger. We need to start talking about a way for it to not be such a uncomfortable issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the misleading and the lying definitely doesn't help with that. That makes people uncomfortable that, if I do hit on somebody that I'm not sure about, how misled am I going to be? What am I going to find later?
Yeah.
So, again, a hard conversation to have. That brings us back to Mad Woman to select the next one.
Since I discuss a good couple of those every morning on the news, let me go to something I don't normally discuss. Technology.
We may be moving into a robotic food preparation unit era. What new ideas would be needed to make this new era thrive? Food storage and freshness being big issues.
Well, if you fully automate a food storage system to the point where you don't even need humans to scan in a food delivery, thereby marking the times that you have to get rid of the food, that would be an improvement. But then again, that's less people with jobs.
Yeah, not Michigan, or was it Oregon or Washington?
I think it was Seattle
putting out the pizza. The pizza machines that you put the toppings into these special dispensaries and it will make, cook, and serve the pizza. There's coffee machines. There's sandwich machines. There's all of these machines to do these processes and more coming out all the time. We're eliminating jobs coming into this new food prep era. And you're right. It could even almost be delivered without having a person involved. But the issue becomes... Go
ahead.
I was going to say the issue becomes these food prep units still need fresh food. Or is there a way we can, freeze dry and then reconstitute this food to put on these meals to make these machines last longer? Granted, that would also remove the jobs from refilling the machines. But, this is going to inevitably come as technology progresses.
Yeah, and as more and more cities are trying higher and higher minimum wages, because I think it was also Seattle that was implementing the $15 an hour minimum wage, and new McDonald's popping up in that area with ordering kiosks.
Yeah.
Before eliminating the cashiers. I don't think there's going to be, and I could be wrong, but you're always going to need some sort of human element in a machine world, whether feeding the machine the fresh ingredients or maintaining the machines, because machines inevitably, without proper maintenance, will break down, or people to give them proper maintenance so they don't break down as often.
Right, and maybe we haven't covered this. My mind gets a little blurred sometimes, talk about a lot of stuff anymore. The jobs for robotics in the next few years, I think we did under a school category, I think are going to become predominantly higher as the robotic machines start coming out and people are going to be taking the classes on, how do I get a job servicing them, because this is where the field's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're always going to need the support thing, because you can't live in a fully automated world and expect, the machines to be self-perpetuating, because we have yet to, to invent that the perpetual motion machine.
Yeah.
And since that is improbable, so is a machine that knows when it needs its own maintenance and can fix itself.
I don't know. We currently have Watson, ever so growing and expanding, that can apparently tell you when an elevator needs to be serviced before it breaks down. We have automated ordering systems that can tell you when you're low on a product because of where you store it and tell you to put it on your list. And then we have automatic ordering systems that will take that list and order your product. And then we have automatic delivery items that will pick up that product, fly it via this little drone, and drop it at your front door. So how much farther are we away from, a bunch of people living in their homes, which is a booth full of screens, staring at fast food delivered through a porthole?
Yeah, which usually leads to my joke that somebody needs to invent the pass it through the computer app.
Yeah. Willy Wonka.
This might happen where you guys live, not in Britain. We need to go outside so we can go to the pub.
It's cheaper to drink at home. Us Americans know that.
No. This is like a good night out at the pub.
Yeah, good night out at the pub. Get arrested.
I don't get arrested. I'm a good girl. I behave when I go out to the pub.
Pending the buzzer going off, my last good night out at the bar, I ended up underneath somebody's car.
Oh!
They pulled over to see if I needed a ride, and I walked up, and there was ice next to their car, and I literally slid more than halfway underneath the car.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
I took the ride home.
Yeah.
I thought you meant that you, woke up under a car. I didn't think you got rid of a car.
No, drunk ice accident.
Listen, yeah, I mean, no matter how automated you get, you're going to need and want human interaction. You're going to want to go hang out with your friends at the local bar or whatever. When I used to live in a different city, every once in a while we would hang out at a pool hall or, a billiards room or whatever that would be called in Britain. And we would shoot pool and drink beer and, but inevitably there would come to a point in the night where I would stop because either A, I was the one driving everybody home, or B, I knew that if I, kept drinking more than those 2 beers, that nobody'd be coming home or we'd be scrambling around for money for a cab.
Good days, good days. Misa, you're still young. Look forward to reminiscing about the good days, good days. Let's see. We got 4 off the board. That means it's back to Misa.
All right. Gonna go for sex this time. Let's get this over with.
Miss Misa wants some sex. We'll give you some sex. Here it is. Birth control methods should be mandated to people under a set age to prevent childhood pregnancies.
See, thing is, birth control was it was quite hard to. I don't know about that. I don't know, because from personal experience, but when I started taking birth control, I mean, it did level out my hormones a lot more, but I don't know if it's a good idea depending on how strong it is, because like my ones, they stopped me from like having the monthly thing, and I don't know if at that age, like quite young, I'm assuming this means like maybe 13 and up or something like that, but I don't think if that
I'd
young
assume. I would go with this means any child who could potentially be sexually active underneath a certain age should then be forced to take a precaution that they would not get pregnant until after that age.
That sort of sounds to me like you are making the government parent the children in terms of sex and sexual activity.
Well, no, it would allow them to have whatever activity they want, just preventing them from procreation until they reach a certain age. Now, mind you, just because I throw a question in here or word it a specific way does not mean this is my viewpoint. It means this is a way to approach this topic.
Right. I mean, it's first of all, you're thinking we're talking about kids that are like Misa says, possibly 13 and up. Kids that you wouldn't normally, think about having sex, but you're not naive enough to discount the fact that they're sexually active.
Right. Thank you, Fuzzy Notions. I worked hard on that one.
And because, I mean, let's face it, we don't want to even try and visualize a 13 or a 14-year-old having sex because they're still kids to us.
I was discussing on a previous show, I knew somebody at 16 that was on their 3rd child.
Good Lord.
Welcome, Satsu.
And it's just, it's unfathomable for me for, I would say it's unimaginable for kids to have kids, but I had my son when I was 17. So I was a little closer to being a legal adult, but not that age that my mother would have wanted me to have a kid. And I think it all comes down to sitting down and being involved in your children's lives and letting them know, look, by now, because let's face it, by the time they hit 11 or 12, they already know about the birds and the bees. The sex talk is just at this point, oh, so you know how babies are made.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Satsu, when you say fuck you, Nightbot responds. If you take the space out of Nightbot responds. There's different responses, and I'm working on more. So be careful about getting mad at my bots.
Yeah, when talking about like the birds and the bees stuff, I'm a bit of an anomaly because I had no idea what sex was until I just had it, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. I didn't understand what it was. Like, I didn't know really what masturbation was until I was about 16.
Yeah. See, and I had come from a family where my parents were born, where they got married as virgins. So they had to figure everything out themselves. And here I come along after having my first kid as a single parent, going to the health department, getting the birth control pills. And they literally gave, because we counted them, 47 condoms. And my mom had no clue what a condom was. So I had to explain to her what a condom was and how it's used. And she said, at that point, her response was, do they expect you to screw the whole county before your birth control kicks in?
I love that one. I just think I don't necessarily agree that young children should be given birth control. My thoughts are, as it kind of is it's readily available for those who need it, regardless of their age. Some countries have prohibited having a certain number of children, and population is on an increase around the world. Less in Western countries, but still, it's increasing exponentially, and as it increases, that increase is just going to grow. Governments are going to need to find ways to disincentivize having children. And having children at a young age leads to, poverty conditions. And the government steps in enough already. That possibility always lays in there. Should they find a way to limit the population increase? How would they go about it? And the birth control question also comes in as to who should be able to get birth control. When should you be able to get it? Who should be notified? And all of that other critical information. So trying to look at this from a side angle of whether it should be mandated to people under a specific age to prevent pregnancies. Some people, again, don't realize at 14 and 15 what they're doing. They get into something, they get pregnant, and either their religion or the availability, they can't do anything to avert the pregnancy. Again, not saying I agree or disagree, just putting this out there. You now have a young mother with a child who doesn't have an income, and that is an expenditure to the system that could have easily prevented it.
Yeah.
Not saying it's their responsibility, but you are now going to give her money and food to make sure that her and her child are taken care of. And that cost is a lot worse than saying, we will happily hand this out to you just because. And I'm not saying just women either. Okay, that was odd. Okay. My Xbox is voice activated. It just heard something and decided it wanted to talk. Apologies.
Skynet is real.
My devices are now listening in on me. Time to get more post-it notes out for the cameras. Okay, let me get back over here to the board. And we got 5 topics gone. That means we are back to Mad Woman's turn.
Okay, back. Let me see. The internet.
The internet. Should the internet be linked so closely with employers for the use of hiring and background checks for employees?
Ooh. That's an interesting one.
I think it depends on the job.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 2 jobs at the moment. One of them's an office job, and the other one's more of a retail one. I don't think the retail one really need to give a damn about what I'm doing online. Would be a bit, like, I'd understand if they did, because, like, what I would be doing online might reflect the company if I did something pretty egregious. So I think it just depends on what the job is.
Okay. Curious question before we go too much further with that. How did you get the jobs that you currently are employed with?
I just applied.
Where?
Like, the retail one.
How?
I applied.
Online?
Well, yeah, online.
There you go. That's part of what this is. You can't walk to your corner business. In a lot of places across the U.S., you can no longer walk to your corner business, fill out a job application, and get hired on the spot. unless you're doing
Yep.
something under the table. And you're not really benefiting there because you don't know how consistent it's going to be.
Yeah, that is true.
And then
Gone
you
are
get
the days of you
into,
having the applications. Oh, you can go online.
once you fill out that online application, you've given them your email address and information about you. That all they have to do is a couple more clicks, and a lot of employers and supervisors have easily gone to social media and looked at who is this person. Let's use what they've portrayed on their social media as who this person is and whether there be viable employees here to work with the crew that we have.
Yeah.
So should it be okay that they're not only encouraging internet but almost going solely to the internet and what you provide there to get you employment?
I don't really think so. I think to a point, all right, but it's especially with social media where you're interacting with lots of different people, like Facebook, where you're trying to keep a whole in touch with family that you don't live close to, and other platforms like that. You tend to say things in a more relaxed environment, and when you're online with people that you tend to be more relaxed about what you say and how you say it. So in terms of interacting with people in that sense, I would say no, it's not fair for them to judge whether or not you're going to be a productive employee or be able to mesh well with a team in a corporate environment just by what you say online most of the time. However, after you are hired, it becomes, to me, a different issue in that how do you represent the company when somebody asks you, who do you work for? Do you like working there? So on and so forth. Then to me, it becomes a different issue because when they're asking about where you work and what you do, you can't really represent them in too much of a negative light because then I don't know how to phrase this. You're setting yourself up to, with a meeting with the manager about, saying stuff about the company that you work for.
Miss Misa?
No, yeah.
I do know, I was waiting to see if you had anything before I chime back in. I do know there's a lot of companies, even some that I've worked for, that you're not allowed to take pictures. And most people know if you take a picture on your phone, the first place it's going is to a social media page. Hey, check out what I just saw in the back room at this store. Look at how crushed this ice cream sandwich is. And I've seen ice cream sandwiches that are like 8-inch thick cases squished down to 2 inches and ice cream just oozing out the sides. You see that on a regular and you laugh at it, but you post something like that online and that then becomes a store liability.
Yeah.
Then you're posting their information from the back room that customers normally wouldn't see. And that's presenting a bad portrayal of them if they know you work, if somebody knows you work there. So I could see how doing something like that to the company would affect them. But
yeah.
My personal opinion is that while the internet is a lovely way to do things, it's awesome, it's convenient, it's quick, it shouldn't be the only mode allowable. If I want to walk into the corner gas station and fill out a paper form because I refuse to get on the internet, I should be allowed to fill out a paper form. And you guys can scan that in and some bot can transcribe it.
Yep. Another thing that I don't particularly like about the hiring process anymore, it's these personality tests.
300 questions.
That they're giving you. And basically it's, how would you resolve issues with coworkers or, how would you handle a shoplifting situation? And, when I answer it honestly, to me, if the coworker has a problem with me, I want to be able to sit down with the coworker and go, what did I do to make you angry at me? Is there any way that we can fix the situation so we can be in a better work environment?
Right.
I don't want to have to go to the manager for every time, a coworker has a problem with me because I'm going to start feeling like a tattletale at that point.
Yeah, and that's what you start to just like, oh, you know what, I know so-and-so was doing something wrong. Even as a supervisor, you feel that sometimes you're like, okay, someone's messing around. I would go over and do the jovial thing and be like, hey, you know, you're not supposed to be on your phone, and walk away. Like I was just somebody giving them a quick hint. By the way, you know, you're going to get in trouble. That got harder to do as I got promoted upwards, but I try to be friendly with other people and not to misportray the company I'm working for. But if I go home at the same time and bitch about my day at work to somebody and I happen to put it live, I shouldn't expect the company to pull me aside and be like, listen, you violated our technology confidentiality agreement by disclosing this, and that we didn't want out to the general public. And yeah. I've seen people and had to talk to people about the way they post the internet, because it'll come through HR and the printout comes down of the post, and you got to be like, hey, listen, can you remove this post because it does make the company look negative. That's all I'm going to say. If I hear it again, I'll let you know. Thanks. Talk to you later. You know, I get back to work. But this is something that's important to them, and just somehow I don't believe that somebody griping about their job, in a lot of cases that I had to deal with, somebody griping about their job should be taken care of at work. If that makes sense, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a difference between coming home, getting on Facebook and going, I had a shit day at work, and leaving it at that. And then going into full detail about what happened, and, you know, and throwing the entire cast of coworkers under the bus.
Yeah. It's a big difference. And some people, you shouldn't have to sit there and think about crossing the line. Don't get me wrong, especially for cashiers and stockers, which are people that were subordinates of mine at the time that I had to deal with. And to sit there and tell somebody that's in there like 10 cents above minimum wage, by the way, can you delete or reword this, or this isn't appropriate, we don't appreciate it, kind of thing. You just feel like a fool.
Yeah.
So, we're getting close to the end. We might get one more category out of the way. How do you ladies like tonight's show?
I like the format.
It's been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. Mellow, easygoing, but still moves right along. Has a few things to say. But try to stay general. Misa was worried about what her comments and reactions would be, but I think you're doing all right.
Yay.
I think it is also your turn to pick the next topic.
Okay, let's go with movies.
Creating a universe of linked videos is what currently draws in viewers. Is this why smaller movies don't seem to make it as well in most cases?
I think a lot of people nowadays, because most things in film have been done before, so when you create your own universe with your own rules and regulations and stuff, and different creatures or different like just a different society, it kind of excites people a bit more. Like with the Marvel stuff and stuff like Divergent, whatever it's called. It's something that people see as different and new, and they're like, oh, that's so innovative. We've never seen that before. You know?
It's sort of been done on a smaller scale than Marvel. But before I get to my thoughts on that, Madwoman, what do you got?
I mean, sometimes the smaller movies can be a refreshing change if done well. I mean, the only thing is, like Misa said, there isn't a storyline, plot, or device that hasn't been tried in a movie or novel before. It's how are you going to present it in a way that catches and keeps the person's attention. And as far as creating a quote-unquote universe, it depends on how you create it. Marvel was very successful, whereas if you look at DC, they're still struggling.
I suppose that's a fair analogy there. You don't see as much out from DC, but I do remember back. Oh, the years are gonna elude me here, but do you guys remember the several Jay and Silent Bob series movies? Mall Junkies, what was it? Mall Rats.
Mm-hmm.
and Jay and Silent Bob, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. There were several different movies. They were all a couple of them were separated from each other, but they all correlated together in their own kind of, not so much universe at the time, but same kind of structure. The movies were all different. They had a few of the same characters, which is also done in the Marvel Universe. And they sort of correlated together so that you sort of wanted to watch all of them as they came out and were linked.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Robert Pattinson movies. They were all different premises and cases, but you still had, your main character solving the crimes.
Did they bring them together, though?
They were trying to with the latest movie they did where Tyler Perry starred as the leading character, because that is actually him solving cases in his own neighborhood. So it would have been an ongoing thing.
Okay. I'm not familiar with them. That's why I ask. It's really hard to comment on things I don't know. So that I'm just looking for that. Where does working?
Yeah, Robert Pattinson had a series of books that all had, I want to say, a sort of nursery rhyme type parody of a title to it, and all of them were leading up to a main person that he was trying to find. And in this, you saw his character developing from book to book and trying to solve the crimes that were eventually leading him up to the person that he'd been looking for the entire time. So the movies would have been linked, but the first movie I don't think did it. Did the beginning of the series justice, because it wasn't too popular.
Okay. Misa.
I don't know. I don't really know what to add, to be honest.
No, that's fine. Sometimes categories do that. It's really hard, especially on the left side of the board. The categories end up being a little drier, because it's the easy side. Just in case you wanna, move in slow, dip your toes in the water. I don't honestly myself, with all of the comic book fandom and everything. And I think I stated this before, I don't think the new Black Panther movie would be getting quite the acclaim it's getting now if the Black Panther wasn't in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Probably, because, like, Doctor Strange, I mean, obviously loads of people still went to see it, but loads of people, like, I didn't see loads of people being like, oh my god, this is so amazing and new, and the movie is so amazing, like,
Yeah.
Oh, the movie, I thought Doctor Strange was pretty nice. But
I
made me want to watch Doctor Strange is at the end of the Marvel videos when they put those little 2.5-minute clips in there, and you've got Doctor Strange with the refilling beer mug in front of Thor. Now I want to watch Doctor Strange because I saw Thor. This was good. You're linking it to that? I want to see that. So if I tell you at the end of this show with a little link on YouTube that, okay, if you like this show, here's a link to a previous episode, you're going to go see that previous episode. And not accumulating, my channel to the Marvel Universe, but that's how they're getting the sales, the box office hits coming out. That's why they feel confident in spending the money, is because they figured out that I'm going to drip a little bit of this into that movie, and then they're going to want to see the next one when it comes out.
Yeah.
It's
no longer. I think they have been way more successful than the DCEU.
Yeah, it's no longer trilogies thereafter. It's separate world-related movies that are going to all come together someday, that we're all looking forward to that. So let's see every storyline along the way, even if they don't entirely interact with each other. Oh crap, that wasn't on purpose. I accidentally cleared transportation off the board there. I was going to say we could squeeze in one more topic if you guys want, or we could jibber jabber and get some of your... I think let's jibber jabber for a minute. Let's get your links out there in the chat and tell people who you are if they don't already know, which I'm betting most of them do. But let's do it anyway.
I am Maddie, otherwise known as the News Chick in MWM Media, where I do a news show every morning, and a couple of shows in the evening twice a week. And you get to see me get the crap scared out of me playing Bendy in the Ink Machine on Saturdays. So, yep.
Are you?
I'm oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, are you easy to
I'm done.
scare?
Yeah, last Saturday we actually ran an experiment that instead of having the cam on the dog, I had it on me, so everybody got to see and hear the reactions when I got the crap scared out of me in the game.
You say this to somebody with a soundboard. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't need the soundboard.
I'm sorry. It's just fun sometimes. One of these days, I'll convince Sinatra to get on here with me. If it's one-on-one, we're going soundboard via soundboard. We're going to have some fun. I'll program some extra noises just for him. Miss Misa, would you like to share anything you're currently doing? I know you're kind of on a break, taking it easy, seeing if anything interests you, but is there anything you would like to share?
Well, people can still find me on Twitter, so I spend the vast majority of my wasted time. I'm not really working on anything because uni and work and all of that. But yeah, you can still find me on Twitter. I'll tweet political stuff sometimes or just post random stuff. But yeah.
All right. And I always look forward to the random stuff. I think I also follow you on a few other social medias, but I'll leave those for you to spread at your own free will. I want to thank both of you for joining me tonight. It has been fun getting new voices in.
It's been fun.
It's
Thank
different.
you for the invite.
It's different. It's mellow, but still a good conversation with somewhere to go. You just don't know where till you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope to have you on in the future. That goes for anybody and everybody listening. If you would ever like a chance to get on, I look for new voices all the time. I'm okay with repeats, but I don't want people getting bored watching the same explanations and hearing the same viewpoints over and over again. I want to get different viewpoints on different topics in different areas. So, with all of that being said, thank you everybody for joining today's show. It's Thursday, isn't it? Yep. Okay, so there's one more day this week. I'm like, wait, what's today? Thursday, so it's almost 3. I will be on tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with a replenished board and a couple more guests. I know I have Vanilla Bear, and there may be one more I'm waiting for confirmation on. I hope you all tune in to join me then. And then Madwoman's News comes on between 10 and 10:30. About a half an hour or so after mine at the latest. So tune in for her news. Any final words?
Can't think of any.
Well, thank you again then for joining me. I'm going to cue out the outro.